So I wanted him to throw me a number. He wouldn't do it. So then I texted him and said, what would you say no to? And he's like, he texts back, he's like, what are you talking about? What number, if I gave it to you, would you say no to? And he texts back, I'd say no to 300,000. I'm like, great. I know. At least we got it started. And what's funny is as soon as I said that, I was like, would you say no to 325? Yes, I'd say no to 325. Would you say no to 350? Maybe. Maybe I'd say yes to 350. Great. Okay, I know from 325 to 350, he's pretty comfortable. All right, welcome. My name's Jason.
I'm Colter.
This is the Massive and Passive Wealth Show. Income.
The Massive and Passive Income Show.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just messed that up. I used to have a domain that was massivepassivewealth.com, so that's why I probably went that way. And even though it's been so long, anyways, glad to be back in the studio. We've had a couple weeks off a little bit, and it's been fun. Missed you, and you had vacation time, which was good.
I just went and laid in the tanning bed, that's it. So.
Where'd you go? Where'd you end up going?
We went to Cancun. We got to play golf down there. We went to Tulum. We got to swim in a cenote. And
aren't those fun, those cenotes?
Oh man, they're amazing.
Yeah,
they're really cool. We got to go under in some caves called Rio Secreto, and go through and kind of wade through underground rivers, and it was really cool.
What'd your girls think of that?
So actually, it was just me and my wife.
Oh, it was. Oh, good for you guys. That's even better. So it was
a
a really good vacation.
It was awesome. It was really nice. It was very relaxed. Well, I don't know. We were moving the whole time, and then just relaxing. Chilling.
Yeah, I'm not the kind of guy who just likes to go sit on the beach for 10 hours. I just can't do that. My wife, she can do that every day for a week.
Yeah,
and not feel bad. I just can't do it.
That's not me.
No, I like to be busy. I like to be doing stuff. So, well, that's awesome. Well, I think we have our topic for today. We're going to talk about making an offer, and what's funny about that is people are like, well, yeah, that makes sense, but a lot of times that's what holds people. That's what holds people hostage from going to the next level or to actually going out there and being in real estate. I remember that old saying: 1 for the money. Everybody wants to do it for the money. 2 for the show. 3 to get ready. 3 to get ready. 3 to get ready. 3 to get ready, right? They just and you never go. And I think that's where the offer can help us with that.
I totally agree. And my wife and I have this discussion all the time. Like, I like to, even at Walmart, I'll ask the person there, like, hey, do you have any other coupons or discounts you can apply to that? Like, isn't there a barcode for the Colter discount?
Yeah.
And what we've learned is, like, I just said, I don't get anything that I don't ask for.
So true.
Right? And they say in sales, like, nothing happens until somebody makes a sale. Well, nothing happens in real estate until you make an offer.
Make an offer.
And you do not get what you do not ask for. And so if you don't ask for the opportunity to own that property, which includes giving them numbers and terms and time frames, you won't ever end up with property.
And you can't get a discussion going around a property until an offer is made. Until you actually make an offer, then they can say no, but at least the conversation started. You got to know out of him. You're like, okay, he won't take that, but what will he take? As soon as he says a no, then you know where he will not do. But what will he do? So then you go back, you make another offer, and maybe he'll say no. Maybe he'll say, well, I like part of that, but I don't like all of that. And so you've got to make an offer to get the progress moving forward so that you can actually negotiate a deal. But until an offer is made, there is no negotiations going on. Right. It's just hope.
Exactly. And I can look at properties all day long, and I can think about them in all sorts of different ways. I mean, I've looked at 4 different properties, analyzed 4 different properties in the last 24 hours, and they're very unique. One's a manufactured home. One's a single-family home that's 2,000 square feet. Another one's a single-family home on 5 acres that needs some renovations. Another one's a prefab home with a bunch of horse facilities on 27 acres.
Oh, nice.
All very different properties, unique. Right? And I've looked at those, analyzed those, but guess what I haven't done yet? And this is the last 24 hours, granted, right? But I have not made an offer to any one of those single people. Now, I have identified the numbers that I would be comfortable with on each of those.
Which this is called due diligence.
It is.
Yeah, it's okay to do your due diligence, but then once you figure out what your number can be or what your number is to make a deal work, then you got to write the offer.
Yep. then you have to put it in writing too.
Yep.
Like even if it's a text message, like, hey, can we start here? And hey, you know what? I know you're asking $360,000, but you were asking that before you knew that the foundation was broken and leaking into the house.
Yeah.
So I got to address that, and that could be a $5,000 fix, could be a $50,000 fix, could be a $100,000 fix.
Yeah.
And so now that we go through those and say, hey, you know what? This is a starting point, but I'll pay you your 360. Maybe that's because the house is worth that, or you know that there's room to wiggle, or the 360 is contingent on them going and fixing these things so that it is actually worth that number.
I remember working on some numbers for a guy, and I didn't, the person who speaks first usually loses. So I wanted him to throw me a number. He wouldn't do it. So then I texted him and said, what would you say no to? And he texts back, he's like, what are you talking about? What number, if I gave it to you, would you say no to? And he texts back, I'd say no to 300,000. I'm like, great. I know. At least we got it started. And what's funny is as soon as I said that, I was like, would you say no to 325? Yes, I'd say no to 325. Would you say no to 350? Maybe. Maybe I'd say yes to 350. Great. Okay, I know from 325 to 350, he's pretty comfortable. Like somewhere in there. So then I started working on terms. And I started, because I found out what his price was, what he would say yes to. And then I started working on terms. And I actually ended up getting it for less than 325, but I had to do the terms differently. But it got the conversation going. I'm like, what would you say no to? Or I guess it's the other way around. I went the other way. We started the other way and I went down lower. I just went higher. That didn't make sense to everybody. But it was the other way. So 300, he said no. Then I went down 275 to 250. We ended up between the 250 and 275 to make an offer. So yeah. Anyways, it turned out good. We made the offer happen and closed the deal. But I needed him. I needed somewhere to start from. And the only way to get it was to say, what would you say no to?
Huh.
Yeah.
I love that. You gave him the baseline starting point, like, hey, all right, let's start to ruminate within that $300,000 range, and then you're able to work in the numbers.
Work in from there.
What would you say no to? I will use that.
There you go. There you go.
And you should use that too.
Because then you kind of find out where his ridiculous. Because I didn't want to offend him, And they're like, well, just give me an offer, and I'm like, yeah, my offer is going to be pretty low. I want to know what you consider a low offer, and 300 was considered like that's low. I would say no to 300. Yeah. Great. And now at least I know where your bottom is, or where your top. I guess depending on how you look at it, right? So offers are important. Offers are what makes the deal happen. If you could analyze it all day long, you could walk it all day long, you can walk contractors through it all day long, you can run the numbers 25 times, but nothing can happen unless you make an offer. So the reason why we do all that due diligence is to come up with a number that we're comfortable with on what we can make the numbers work. Now that doesn't mean you come up with that number, that's the number you offer them. That's the number you can make work. Now you make your money by negotiating from that number down to get it for less, because that's where the profit comes into. You find out what your number is, then you try to get it for less than that.
Yeah. Well, let's walk through the analysis of what you would do with the deal. So let's talk about the manufactured home. How many manufactured homes have you done, Jason?
Oh, I've done half dozen, maybe 10.
Okay.
I've done a couple of trailers. When we did a trailer park over in Boise, there are 7 trailers on there that we actually bought with the trailer park. Okay. So I did own a few, but they were one was I think it was manufactured in '62. It still had the lights on it. In fact, I hooked up a battery and all the lights turned on. I had to replace a couple bulbs, but
really,
yeah, had brake lights, had tail lights, had everything.
Wow.
So, anyways,
so when it comes to manufactured homes and getting to the offer, so let's say we're looking at an area where the manufactured homes range from $60,000 to $140,000. This particular home they're asking $90,000 for. What are you looking for as you walk into that house? And just walk us through the process of inspection, basic due diligence items, and then what would help you make an offer that would allow for you to make money in the end, right? Because we make money when we buy, we get paid when we sell.
Yep. Yeah, I think especially for like a trailer or a manufactured home, you want to look at the big ticket items. What's going to cost me the most if I purchase this deal? Like what conditions the roof in? Is it going to need a new roof? Is it, how's the HVAC system? You know, the heat and the cooling system. Is it old? Is it rusting? What's the water heater look like? What's the windows look like? What's the siding look like? So I go through the big ticket items. You know, roof is a big ticket item. HVAC is a big ticket item. Windows are a big ticket item. Maybe, depending on, you know, what comps you've pulled, maybe you don't even have to replace the windows. But sometimes some of those older ones, they've put storm windows over, and then they've caulked that, and they've put cellophane over it, and then put another window over top of that. I mean, some of them are 3 or 4 deep, and the inside of the well is rotted out. So you really need to see what are my big ticket items so that I can make an offer on this. Because if it's 90,000, it needs to be, you know, is what their offer is, what they want. Then you're like, okay, if I put a roof on it that cost me $6,000, and I put windows in it, it's cost me another $6,000. There's 12 grand. Do I need to negotiate that off of the 90 so that I can cover my costs, or can I swallow that because it's going to be worth 165 if I do these, you know, these different spots? So with manufactured homes, it's a little bit different than a regular stick-built home because there's so much that is movable. Like they've brought it in, so you want to look for cracks in your sheetrock. You want to look for, you know, what condition the skirting's in, whether there's insulation underneath that, if, you know, water lines have frozen. There's all sorts of things you want to look for in a manufactured home that you wouldn't normally look for if you were buying a regular stick built. So it's a little bit different, but a lot the same.
Okay. So then once you get to the offer, so as I analyzed this deal, $90,000 was not the offer I was going to make. And I backed into a couple of numbers. As we looked in the immediate surrounding homes, they were ranging between the $60,000 and $70,000 range. Now this particular unit is probably 400 or 500 square feet bigger than the adjacent units, but it's surrounded by all of those units. So it would be considered the biggest house on that street. Are there advantages and disadvantages that you see of being the biggest versus the smallest house on the street?
Yeah, there is. I mean, one of the strategies out there is, you know, find the smallest home in the biggest neighborhood, or build the smallest home in the biggest neighborhood. Like if there's a housing development that you can have a 3,000 square foot house or a 1,500 square foot house, but everybody's building 3,000 square foot houses, build that 1,500 square foot house because it'll raise the value of that house because everything that's comping in the neighborhood is bigger. So to buy the biggest house in the neighborhood could have advantages and disadvantages. It just kind of depends on, you know, what like properties you can find. Comps need to be like properties. I get comps all the time from different people that, hey, there's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house over here, and a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house over here, and this one sold for, you know, $300,000. This one sold for $325,000. So I think ours is going to be worth $325,000. Well, this one has a 2-car garage and this one doesn't, and this one is sitting on 2 acres and this one's not. So those are not good comps. Right. Sure, they're a manufactured home, or sure they're 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but they're not a like property. And even if I have to go to another neighborhood to find a like property that's a 1-car garage that has the same square footage, that has the same type of a, you know, property, the same acreage, then that gives me a better idea of what that house would be worth than 2 that are not like it in the same neighborhood.
Okay. Well, so we walk through, you got to understand the like property, you got to understand how much square footage is in the lot, how much is in the house, if there's a garage, not a garage. So once you make an offer, so in this one in particular, I'm looking at it like, okay, $90,000 is not going to happen. The seller's motivated, they want to move to Florida, they're so done with the house, they obviously haven't been taking care of it. It could be worth $90,000, but it's dilapidated. Yeah. So my number quickly, as I walked through the details and understood from the person that walked through it, is that it would be maybe in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. Then I'd settled on $42,000. So now if I go to that seller and say, I'll pay you $42,000 cash and I can close in 2 weeks, or I can close by the end of the month, what does that do for you? Then what are you expecting when you go from there? Yeah, so a great strategy on that is I never ever want to tell people when they say, hey, I want $90,000, I'll say, oh, that's stupid, that's never gonna happen. For some reason, they want $90,000. So I usually ask them, where did you come up with that number? And usually they'll say, well, my friend down the road sold his for $80,000 and I've got more square footage, so I figured mine's worth $90,000. Okay, well, what's the house like? Oh, it's got a new roof and it's, you know, they start explaining how much nicer it is than the one that they've got. And then you say, okay, so you want $90,000 for this. And you know, $90,000 probably is a fair price if this property was fixed up. And if you try to throw it on the market with a realtor or just throw it on the market, you probably are not gonna get $90,000 because of the shape it's in.
but I can do some fix-ups and get that 90,000. But in order to do that, I've got to get it for a discount. So you try to lead them into the same decision that you have already come up with by walking them through that process. Meaning, hey, this is going to need a roof. That's about $6,000. 90,000 is the top of the market, and I believe you could get 90,000 out of this property, but these fix-ups are going to have to happen. And they're like, oh, okay. So then you walk through, needs a roof, needs this, it needs that. So that's going to cost me $30,000. So that automatically takes that property from 90,000 down to, whatever with closing costs, whatever else, whether it's, 40 or 50, whatever that number is. And I'd be willing to give that to you right now. Or you could take that money and spend it fixing this property up and still only get 90, or I can just give you $40,000 right now and you walk away and I'll worry about all this stuff. So you kind of, I don't want to say lead the witness because that's not it, but they don't know. They're not in real estate. They have no idea what things cost. All they said is, hey, their buddy down the street and their friend in Arizona sold that same property for 90,000, so that's where they come up with the value. And you never want to say, this property's not worth 90,000, you're crazy. You never want to say that. Say, well, 90,000, okay, it might be worth 90,000, but that's the top of the market. And in order to get top of the market out of this property, it's got to have this and this and this because I walked through it. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And to do that, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So I'd be willing to just give you this amount and I'll do all this and you can just go to Florida. Most of the time they're like, well, I shouldn't say most, about half. Yeah. Because sometimes they're like, oh, I can do it for cheaper than that. That's, well, that's great. And if you think you can, great. I hope you do. You never want to say, you can't. The last thing you want to do is is to have, what's the word I'm looking for?
Have a conflict, or to be condescending, right?
Exactly. You don't want to do that. Say, well, yeah, you might be able to do that. But what's the chances of that happening? Have you got the time to do that? Don't you want to be in Florida? Well, yeah, I want to get out of here. So let's just make a deal. You can walk away. I'll give you this amount of money. You walk away with that much. You don't have to worry about this anymore. It's a done deal. And I'll worry about all these fix-ups. I'll worry about getting listed. And I'll sit and wait to get the money.
See, and you said so many things in there that just identifies us as problem solvers. Yeah. Right? We've identified this guy wants to move to Florida. His wife is already there. He's tired of the house. He wants it gone. Those are all factors that make him motivated. And so by us identifying those, we're able to then say, okay, you want 90,000 out of the house. It would take 50,000, maybe more, for you to fix that up. Do you have that? And do you want to put that into the house? And you want to take the next 6 months to make that happen? Are you going to do the work to make it cheaper so that you can get more out of your money? What is it you're looking for? Or do you want to give me the problem? Yeah. Which that's what I'm paid to do every single day. And that's why I can make this offer to you. I'll give you the $42,000. Which is going to be what you would net anyways if you were to do all of the repairs that I'm proposing need to be done.
And you can walk away now.
To make the house worth the 90,000, which it legitimately can be.
Yeah.
So you just walk that through so that people can logically understand what it is that they're actually facing. Because when people are ready to list their property and they've made the decision, they've already said, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm gone, I'm moving on, and I want this house gone, and I want to be able to move on to the next phase of my life. And that's what we're doing, is helping them do that.
Yeah. We got a property that would sell, was on the market for about 6 months. And so I went and had a conversation with them. And they're like, we want this amount of money. I was like, I agree. This property should be worth this money. But the reason why it hasn't sold is I think because of this, and this. It was a goofy floor plan. There was some fix-up needed to happen. And so you're right, this property should be worth that, but because of this, I think that's the reason why it hasn't sold. And it's funny, in his head, he looked at his wife and was like, I told you that was the reason why it wasn't selling. So they already knew it. They already knew it. So I'm willing to fix that part so that we can get it sold, but I can't give you that if I'm gonna do the fix-up so we can get it sold. And they already were like, yeah, that makes sense. And then I just backed them into what I would need to get it for in order to make it so that I could sell it. And they were like, done, let's do it. You can give me cash right now on that offer. I'm like, I can give you cash. Give me a couple of days. And they signed it over, and they felt like, oh my gosh, we just gave this guy a whole bunch of problems, and we're walking away with a pocket full of cash, and we're going to do whatever we want to. And that's what I want them to feel like, because I'm taking care of that problem. I'm getting rid of all this stuff of things that they're like, we can't sell this thing, and we don't know what to do in order to sell it. Well, I know what to do in order to sell it, and I'm willing, and I've got the money to make that happen, but I'm willing to just give you cash to walk away. The weight just came right off their shoulders. They were so excited, like somebody finally explained to us, finally took the problem off our hands, and we can walk away and go do what we want to do.
Yeah, and I'll share another instance because I love that example. There are people completely on a different side of the table that don't need the cash right now. They're willing to wait. They're not motivated to sell. And at the end of the day, they're willing to wait until maybe 10 years down the road for them to finally get their price.
Yeah.
So I went and looked at a property. It's a house on 5 acres, cute little place, has a nice little barn, another little work shed, and pastures, etc. My wife loves the idea of us having a horse property, and I'm excited too.
Yeah.
I like horses, but as we talked through the details and the terms that would be acceptable to the seller, is I said, okay, what if I made a cash offer, and versus talking about terms on seller carry, and the guy was open to seller carry type options based on the terms that we could offer. And I said, well, okay, but now if I offered the cash offer, what does that do for the seller? And the real estate agent was perfectly honest, like, you know what, this guy has spent the last year traveling here from Washington, working on the weekends and mulling through and cleaning it up and making it so that it's ready for to sell at this juncture. And cash really isn't the motivating factor. He runs a contracting business. He doesn't really need anything different. Then, hey, you know what, maybe this price is going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so taking the price and being able to take or receive some cash every single month and knowing that that price is coming over a period of time is more motivating to that individual than it is to just have a big lump sum of $450,000.
Love that example, because now you just explained people can either get their price or they can get their terms. And once in a while, the moons line up and something magical happens and you get your terms and your price. But most of the time, you can either get your terms or you get your price. And so sometimes people are like, like you said, I want this price. Money's not a motivating factor. I don't care. If it takes 10 years, that's fine. Okay, great. We'll give you your price, but this is how we're going to get there. And sometimes it sounds like that was a win for him. Hey, at least I'm getting my price. It doesn't matter if it takes me 10 years or 5 years or 2 years to get that price. I want that price. Well, great. We'll give you that price, but we'll give you that price with these terms, meaning you got to carry it. You've got to do this. You got to do that. I got a guy to fund the rehab for his property.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It was up in Ryrie. It was about half done. He was done with it. His wife already moved away, got a new job. He was tired of being there, tired of making it happen. And he's like, I just don't have the ability to do it anymore. I can't wait anymore. I am so mad at this property. It seems like it's been one problem after another. He goes, I just can't do it anymore. And so I said, so what do you miss? He goes, I have the money. I don't have the time. I don't have the skill. I want out. And I'm like, well, great. How much money do you have? He said, well, I got about another $30,000. I was like, how much money do you think it's going to cost to fix this up? He said, $30,000 what I budgeted for. I was like, tell you what, I'll give you the price you want. I'll take this burden off your hand. You fund the rehab, and when we sell, we'll split the profits. Done, he said. I'm like, are you kidding me? I just got the price I wanted, and he's going to fund the rehab? This is like the magical time thing. I looked up and seen if there were 2 moons in the sky or something. But sometimes you just have to figure out what their problem is. It wasn't the money. It wasn't, he was tired of the project. He hated it. He hated showing up there every day because it had drained so much life out of him that it was just negative. So I took the negativity out of his life. He still had the money. He was able to stick. I got the project done. We split the profits. Now, I maybe could have negotiated and done my own money and funded it. But if I don't have to go out and find my own money and he's going to fund it, I'm willing to give up a little bit of profit. And we just split the proceeds. It went great. It went great.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, and what a creative option.
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to think of, hey, seller, why don't you give money to me to then be able to go and fund the rest of this project until we can go and turn it into a profitable deal?
And it was subject to, so I just took over his payments too. So I was literally into that thing. I just needed to take the problem from him. And once I took the problem from him, he was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, and it freed him. You could actually see it in his eyes when I told him what we could do to help him out. It was like I just took this big weight off his shoulders. He's like, I'm going to start packing. I'm going to call my wife, tell her I'm on my way. I was like, great, let's do it. What can I do to help you pack?
That's awesome. Okay, well, let's summarize this episode because we've talked about a number of different deals. There's so many different ways of being able to put a deal together, but be creative. But if you aren't going to be creative, actually say something and say, this is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. I will pay you this much. And just put it out there. Basic, vanilla, I can pay you this much for this property. And that will create the transaction that allows for me to succeed and accomplish what I think you're trying to accomplish as well.
And always start the conversation off with, are you willing to be creative? Are you willing to look at some creative options? 99% of the time, yeah. And I had one, a couple said, well, I don't know if I'll accept them, but sure, go ahead. So I went through and he's like, well, I don't like that, I don't like that. Again, you've got to get the conversation going. And you got to figure out what your offer is going to be, where your offer is going to make happen, or what offer you're going to make happen in order to start that conversation. So look at these properties and analyze the properties, look at the properties, get whatever your offer is, and then start the conversation. And tell me more about that. What do you want to do? Where are you wanting to go? What is the problem? And just try and solve that problem and see if you can get them their price. And if you can't get them the price, then get them their terms, whatever it is. And then, like I said, once in a while, things line up and you get both.
I love it. Well, go make offers, make it happen. And remember, you don't get what you don't ask for, so go ask for something.
Awesome.